Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, while we're waiting for the presence of the heads of a government, I thought that we might commence our discussions on the subject of the priority of development and the challenges. We have spoken at length on the state of affairs of the Muslim world. While we may not have been able to fully dissect all that had caused our pain and anguish, we are mostly in agreement that it is our inability to keep up with the progress and development of the non-Muslims that have left us in the lurch. Due to that, Muslims the world over suffer, and as many are dependent on the mercy and charity of non-Muslims. To my mind, we have no choice but to develop and progress as fast as possible if we are to remedy all the misfortunes that had befallen the Ummah. We have stressed how non-Muslim nations that were devastated by wars have been able to literally rise from the ashes and become developed and leading nations of the world. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me share some of the development strategies that Malaysia had prepared for its future, aimed at ensuring sustainable growth and progress. I am sure that you have your own strategies as well. One of our strategies is about our 5-year development plans, of which the 11th edition, which started in 2016, is ending next year, and the 12th edition will start in 2021. These plans provides a clear strategic direction to set the way forward for national development agenda. On top of that, we have recently launched our national development blueprint called Shared Prosperity Vision 2030. It is a document that outlines a 10-year goal to restructure Malaysia's low-skilled, labor-intensive economy to Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. His Excellency Recep Tayyip Erdogan, President of the Republic of Turkey, His Excellency Dr. Hassan Rouhani, President of the Islamic Republic of Iran, distinguished guests. As I said just now, Malaysia has been planning for the future based on 5-year plans. And we are now in the 11th 5-year Malaysian plan. We will be starting the 12th edition of the plan in the year 2021. We have recently launched our national development blueprint called Shared Prosperity Vision 2030. It is a document that outlines a 10-year goal to restructure Malaysia's low-skilled, labor-intensive economy to a knowledge-based economy where its citizens enjoy a decent standard of living. The blueprint is a commitment to make Malaysia a nation that achieves sustainable growth along with fair and equitable distribution across income groups, ethnicities, regions, and supply chains. It is also a commitment at ensuring political stability, enhancing the nation's prosperity, and ensuring that the citizens are united while celebrating ethnic and cultural diversity. Further to that, any development efforts that we pursue today are not merely centered on growth and economic gain, but must be in tandem with sustainability, human capital, and environmental conservation. One of the biggest challenges we face while drawing up development plans and strategies is dealing with the disruption caused by technological advancement. The rapid pace of these technological advancement threatens to make obsolete some of the strategies and plans we chart today within a few years. We are today witnessing almost daily how some cutting-edge technology and advanced economic ventures, which are merely a few years old, had been made inconsequential, and that had led to some segments of our workforce being made obsolete and irrelevant. In that context, our challenge becomes two-pronged. First, to come up with development strategies, and secondly, to make sure they are continuously upgraded so as not to be irrelevant when new technologies emerge. In Malaysia, to deal with the fourth industrial revolution, or IR industrial revolution last year, we introduced a national policy called Industry Forward. Industry Forward is mainly focused on digitally transforming Malaysia's manufacturing sector and related services. The policy envisions Malaysia as a strategic partner for smart manufacturing, a primary destination for high technologies, and a total solution provider for the manufacturing sector in the region. Ladies and gentlemen, obviously for the Muslim community, all these only serve to remind us of how far behind we are and how we have worked doubly hard to catch up with the rest of the world. On one hand, we are dependent on creations and technologies of the non-Muslims, and when we manage to catch up, they are already ahead with new technological advancement, and we now need to acquire and familiarize. If we do not start creating and developing our own technologies, we will forever be playing catch-up with the rest of the developed nations. We have no choice but to start working on this, and I truly hope that at the end of this summit, we will come up with some tangible strategies and approaches. With that, I would like now to call upon you.
Thank you, sir, for your exposition on the shared prosperity vision of Malaysia. May I now respectfully invite His Excellency Dr. Hassan Rouhani, President of the Islamic Republic of Iran, to address this session.
In the name of God, the most
Bismillahir Rahmanir
compassionate,
Rahim.
the most merciful. Once again, I
مرة
would like to
أخرى
appreciate
أريد أن أعبر عن
the
تقديري
Honorable Prime Minister
للسيد
of
مهاتير
Malaysia
محمد رئيس وزراء
for
ماليزيا
providing this
لدعوته
valuable
الكريمة وإتاحة
opportunity
الفرصة هذه لنا
given to us and experts.
وللخبراء أيضا في هذه القاعة.
Today we
اليوم
feel
نشعر
that we bear an important historic responsibility to open the way for the dignity and prosperity of the Muslim Ummah, and also eradicate and remove obstacles on the Ummah progress and participation and contribution, as well as growth and perfection of human society. I am confident that all of us have participated in this round table on the belief and wish that Islamic civilization is able to once again experience its golden era under the new conditions of the world today. In fact, the decline of the Islamic civilization began when a tide of superficiality and narrow-mindedness and fanaticism ignored the dynamism of Islam and Islamic jurisprudence. And unfortunately, some of them ignored the role of human wisdom and experience in managing societies. And this is while Islam recommends us that there are two messengers for your guidance. One is your internal messenger, which is your wisdom and mind, and the second messenger is the Holy Prophet of Islam, peace be upon him. Therefore, this is the recommendation of the Almighty God and Prophet, which unfortunately we have ignored, and we are not employing our wisdom, our knowledge, and the other knowledge of other humanities. We have failed to employ them properly. This is why Islam had told us that al-hikmatu zalatul mu'min. Wherever there is wisdom and there is knowledge and science, Muslims should seek them. And the Holy Prophet had admonished us that just like worshipping and prayers, you should be seeking knowledge and science and learn all knowledge and sciences. And such underdeveloped ideology, unfortunately, resulted and prevented the society from progress and development. And in fact, it promoted some sort of extremist ideology and radical ideology, which damaged our civilization and progress, and also imposed serious damage on the real image of Islam. And now we see that we have the takfiri and extremist ideology of the world today, and it has resulted in war, fanaticism, destruction, and destitution in our society. As against this extremist attitude, which deprives us from wisdom and experience of others, lies another extremist approach in the Muslim world, being inspired from the Western models for development. So the second approach told us that there is no way to develop your society unless you follow Western models. And that approach told that any development and progress of Muslim nations are conditional on ignoring national traditions and religious beliefs. And you should be totally dependent on the West, the Western model and Western path. And unfortunately, in some of the Muslim countries, because of an absolute imitation from Western models and abandoning national traditions and religious beliefs, there were some crises, and they were prevented from having an absolute identity. And for these two extremist and radical attitudes, the Muslim nations have paid a heavy cost, unfortunately, on Muslim nations. And today, it seems obvious to us all that in the long run, development would have catastrophic impacts without focusing on cultural and historical values and religious beliefs for our societies. Poor attention to the cultural dimension of development impedes our creativity and innovation in national issues and diminishes the capacity of society to counter unwanted foreign patterns. Now, I believe it is the time for us to think about a status deserved and triumphed by the Muslim Ummah. And the Muslim Ummah may not earn what it deserves unless it is able to retrieve the string of compassion and affinity amongst it and crush the cells of imprisonment in the cycle of rage and hatred among Muslims without being totally prepared for cooperation in the Muslim society and brothers, then one cannot achieve anything but the repeat of failure. We have learned from Islam that Islam is not the civilization of clashes. Islam is not seeking civilizations to confront each other. The Islamic civilization is the civilization of toleration, invitation, and coexistence. The Islamic Republic of Iran, Mr. Chair, stands ready to cooperate with other Muslim countries, and the fruit of extensive investment in higher education and training young scientists in Iran has been spectacular accomplishment for Iran, being placed in highest ranks of science and technology globally and regionally. And fortunately, in some areas of science, such as nanotechnology, biotechnology, cognitive science, and peaceful nuclear technology, Iran has made very good achievements. And fortunately, in research and in defense research and defense industries, we have reached a point today that we are well equipped before the menaces and threats against us. We are able to defend ourselves properly. In some of our defense industries, our industry is able to compete with the industries of advanced and developed countries. And this could not have happened if our younger generation, our young scientists in our country had not had the opportunity to go to university to learn and to incorporate their national and religious beliefs. On the other hand, Islam-based democracy in our country has paved the ground for the active participation of people in determining their own destiny. And the main reason that superpowers during the past 41 years failed to undermine our independence and our Islamic establishment, that was because of democracy and the promotion of democracy and democratic participation in our society. During the past 4 decades, on average, we have held elections once a year. During the past 40 years, we have held 38 nationwide elections, and our people determine their own destiny and future in ballot boxes. And in today's world, without the participation and contribution of the people, the independence of the country and the development of the country is not possible. And we are pleased to have been able to maintain and preserve our religious culture, in addition to democracy, ballot boxes, and vote of the people, the consultation of the people, the idea and comments of the people. And the Almighty God has admonished us in the Holy Quran, وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ, which means this is the order of Islam to us, the instructions of Quran, that we should make efforts in order to cooperate in order to realize our goals. Mr. Chair, today is the day of decision for progress of the Muslim world on the basis of cooperation. We need to cooperate together, and our countries enjoy a lot of grounds for synergy and integration in the Muslim world. What is important here, Mr. Chair, is to be able to take calculated and tailored steps in order to pave the ground for further cooperation. We believe that when it comes to economics and economic areas, we can establish closer multilateral cooperation in 5 main areas. The first area is financial cooperation, is monetary, banking, and insurance cooperation. We understand that today many of our economic transactions and activities are dependent on foreign insurance, the insurance coming from big countries. This is why us as Muslim countries, we are able to cooperate in order to set up an insurance, particularly and exclusively for Muslim states, particularly in transport and transit, in order to save us from dependence on foreigners. We today, under the conditions of sanctions, our country was able to cooperate with the insurance companies of other countries so that we could set up the insurance desirable for us. In the banking sector, we should be transacting with our national money, and without our national money and with reliance on the US dollar, we will not be able to maintain our economic independence. The other issue of cooperation or avenue of cooperation is new technologies. When it comes to high techs and new technologies, Muslim countries have registered remarkable achievements. And we see that when it comes to new technologies, we are able to stand on our own feet. We in Iran recently, in oil and gas sectors, because of sanctions, we needed some of the oil and gas industries that we need to become self-sufficient, and we need to stand on our own feet. And for this reason, we started to manufacture turbines and compressors. And today, in oil and gas industry, we are totally self-sufficient in manufacturing turbines and compressors, and we are not dependent on abroad. And this is very important for us, that we in the Muslim world, we have the power, we enjoy the power to complement this industry. The third area of cooperation is in trade and commerce. In the Muslim world, particularly when it comes to halal services and goods, we can complement each other, we can cooperate. Today, in the even modern industrial world, the halal food occupies a special place, and even non-Muslims are now being interested in halal brand and halal products. And therefore, if we Muslim countries cooperate together, we can take the world markets and initiate a big campaign with regards to halal goods and halal services. The other avenue of cooperation is transnational transit and transport. We are able, as Muslim states, to cooperate in order to compete with transnational transit and transport, and we are able to assist each other in transnational transit and transport. And the last venue of cooperation is tourism. We, in the Muslim world, we have a good opportunity to promote our tourism industries in terms of culture and history and cultural heritage, handicrafts, and in terms of climate diversity, we Muslims enjoy a lot of capacities in services such as health tourism. We Muslim states enjoy a lot of capacities and potentials through which we can expand our tourism. With the emergence of the new blockchain technology, we would be able to introduce a united cryptocurrency for Muslim states with the cooperation of our central banks. And in the past, Dr. Mahathir Mohamad was seeking to introduce Islamic dinar, and today, perhaps with such a technology on the web, we would be able to set up a new currency for the Muslim world and to benefit and profit from the advantages of cryptocurrencies in order to cut severe bureaucratic market fluctuation. In order to support innovation and development in new technology sector, Mr. Chair, we can consider establishing joint investment ventures, and this fund could support all the startups and promote new technologies in the Muslim world. The other area I would like to refer to is our cooperation and joint efforts in the area of culture and society. I would like to propose that we place on our agenda the development of a tourism as well as information and communication network among Muslim states, and also to conduct joint research on artificial intelligence, and also set up a market for media and cultural products of the Muslim states. We can agree on a short and medium-term plan of action and also design a mechanism for the continued monitoring of issues and presenting realistic and practical solutions. It should be made clear to all that the goal of this new movement, which could be perhaps titled the Islamic Development Forum or IDF, and the main goal of the IDF would be to provide prosperity and promote prosperity for Muslim communities and improve their participation in human society. This movement is going to pursue the common causes of all Muslims and would never, ever move against the experience of any Muslim or Islamic country. I thank you for your good attention.
Cooperation and recommending the Islamic Development Forum. May we now look forward to the views of the third speaker, His Excellency Mr. Tayyip Erdogan, President of the Republic of Turkey. Please, Your Excellency.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
My dear brothers and sisters, in the inauguration session, as you know, I mentioned a few points, a few fundamental difficulties that we are facing with as the Islamic world. And you also did the same. You shared with the audience the issues related with your countries and Muslims in general. And we see that we are actually touching upon similar issues, and we see that our views are actually overlapping. It is important to talk about the issues, but the biggest, more important than that, is to find solutions. So I think we have to focus on what we can do together. As you know, we have been talking for some time now that we have to free bilateral trade from foreign exchange pressure. Instead of doing trade with foreign currencies, we would like to do foreign trade with our national currencies. The lack of having our own payment systems is making our financial markets more fragile to shocks and manipulations. In order to prevent that, we are trying to develop alternative payment systems with countries like Russia, China, and Brazil. At a time where trade wars are being discussed, the issue of doing trade with national currencies is a priority. And we are ready to work with you on this issue, which we have taken some successful results so far. And we have to take the Islamic finance on our agenda as a priority. And Malaysia has a pioneering role on this issue, on the issue of having alternative financial resources. And we also took some distance in the recent years on that issue. Our public banks, our private banks, we have actually enlarged the models, the non-interest rate models such as sukuk. And we also encouraged our public banks as well as private banks to enter into the segment of participative banking. And for the first time, we hosted the high-level public and private sector investment conference with under the Islamic Cooperation Organization. So there is a serious potential among our countries, and we can establish a working group in order to identify the main issues to work on. So they can come up with a detailed roadmap on what to do. My dear friends, technology and innovation are other two issues that we have to touch upon seriously. Any investment in technology comes back with high value added competitive growth. And we saw that some countries with whom we started our technological development, we saw that they have taken good distance in a short period of time, and we experienced the same in our defense industry. In 2003, we had about 80% foreign dependency, and now it came down to about 30%. We are one of the 4 nations in the world that has the most advanced technology in the drones, in combat drones. We are meeting our own needs in warships, helicopters, tanks, armored vehicles, and missiles. And we are also exporting some of them to friendly countries. So the more we diversify our production capability, the more we can get closer to the sustainable development targets. Of course, the driving force comes from our research and development, from human capital, and from innovation. The Center of Excellence that is intended to be established is going to make big contributions to us in security, food, healthcare, transportation, energy, and communication. So through this center, we can share our experiences and technologies, and the researchers can freely circulate among our countries. My brothers and sisters, we as Muslims, we have young and dynamic population. However, we have serious problems in education that is going to mobilize this human capital. We are lagging behind the world average in literacy rates and in the rate of schooling of especially the girls. The rate of literacy among the world is around 82%, whereas the same in Islamic countries is about 70%. 17% of the boys and 19% of the girls could not go to school between the years 2006 and 2016. Muslim countries are spending 33.7% of their national income to education, while the world does reserves or uses 4.8%. So this points to us that education should be our priority. So in that respect, we had the ministers for social development ministers of the Islamic Cooperation Organization, which we held in Istanbul in the beginning of this month, was very useful. And we dealt with issues like women, children, labor, family, education, and similar social issues for the first time. Furthermore, our universities can intensify their cooperation among themselves, and we can increase the number of exchange academics and students. We can help our think tanks get in contact with one another, and we can have joint projects in the education of especially girls. And our country undersigned important developments in the last 17 years. The rate of schooling of girls in Turkey in 2002 was about 91%, and thanks to our efforts, this came up to 99.8% in 2018. So we are ready to do whatever it needs to be done. With these thoughts in mind, I hope that this meeting is going to be useful, and I would like to present you my thanks to my brother Mahathir Mohamad. Thank you.
The way you develop your defense industry. We thank the 3 distinguished speakers for their addresses on this subject. We now move to the interventionists. May I invite His Excellency Mr. Rustam Kasimov, State Advisor to the President of the Republic of Uzbekistan, to address the session.
Thank you.
Dear
on behalf of the delegation of the Republic of Uzbekistan, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the King of Malaysia, His Majesty Al Sultan Abdullah Al Mustafa Billah Sheikh, and the Prime Minister, His Excellency Mr. Mahathir Mohamad, for the warm reception, hospitality, excellent organization of the summit, and opportunity to speak at this such significant event. The subject of today's summit is relevant more than ever. The process of globalization, along with the empowerment of humanity, lead in some cases to mounting controversies as well as the emergence of unprecedented threats. We can witness the thousands of innocent people, including the children, elderly women, are being killed as a result of armed conflict and terrorist attacks. People are becoming concerned about the manifestations of such immoral and cruel behavior, as well as increasing indifference towards this phenomenon. The harsh realities urges us to intensify our joint efforts in developing an atmosphere for human rights, enlightenment, and education. This combination, as has been evident in international practice, serves as a key toward worldwide peace and stability. We know from the history of enlightenment that enlightenment and education are guiding lives or principle, good deeds, tolerance, and respect for others. This is also taught by our faith, Islam, Holy Islam. It's the ayats of Holy Quran tells us how the human being had been created. Such ayats are full of enlightening meaning in the context of the world in which we are living. I would like to refer to the two of them. First, Almighty Allah elevated man over all creatures and appointed him as his envoy on the earth. Consequently, a man and his life must be considered as the highest value. Awareness of this truth is related, first of all, to such values as spirituality and morality. It is also inextricably linked to the processes of growth in national self-identity, with the pursuit of unique spiritual roots being its integral part. Another inexorable source of welfare and sustainable development of any country is ethnic, cultural, religious tolerance. It is worth emphasizing that for thousands of years, Uzbekistan has always been a place where the representatives of different cultures, faith, and religions coexisted in peace and harmony. One of the most important outcomes of the diplomatic reforms in modern Uzbekistan has been consolidated in an atmosphere of prosperity and its multi-ethnic society. The core of this society is the human essence of the Uzbek mindset, built on centuries-old spiritual and moral values closely related to the requirements of Muslim religion. So the positive aspects of the Uzbek built all selfish mindset and moral values closely related to the requirements of the Muslim religion. This is free freedom. The second, Almighty Allah taught man literacy and gave him the opportunity to discern the world. It is instructive that the first ayat of the Holy Quran sent down to the humankind begins with the word read. In his will, our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ also insisted that people teach their children literacy and ethics. Life proves today that only enlightened society is able to appreciate the benefits of democratic development. Of particular importance, this is the initiative of the President of Uzbekistan, His Excellency Shavkat Mirziyoyev, announced at the 72nd session of the United General Assembly, which is subsequently related to the adoption of special resolution, education and tolerance. It's also symbolic that the main leitmotif of the agenda of the 43rd session of the Summit of Foreign Ministers of Organization of Islamic Cooperation held October 2016 in Tashkent was the idea of education and enlightenment, the way to peace and creation. It harmonizes the famous hadith that says, strive for knowledge from birth to death. Our country efforts are streamlined to revive and preserve national and religious values, to promote the rich and scientific and spiritual heritage a great Muslim scholar thinks had always, as well as to bolster the religious tolerance. Concrete mechanism for furthering this goal has been created over the last 3 years. Uzbekistan, as the government of Uzbekistan has established the Center for Islamic Civilization, the International Islamic Academy, the Research Center of Imam al-Bukhari and Imam al-Tirmizi. Besides Higher School of Hadith Studies, academic theology schools of Kalam, Hadith, Tasawwuf, Aqidah, Fiqh have been opened. These tasks are particularly urgent in the light of mounting threats of international security, including those posed by the movement of those ideology is based on distorted interpretation of Islam. This contributes to the rise of Islamophobia. The latter can only be defeated by bringing the true essence of Islam to the attention of the world community. Uzbekistan is a multi-religious nation. Along with more than 2,000 Islamic institutions, there are 182 non-Islamic organizations belong to 16 faiths. Dear participants, Uzbekistan is rightly proud of its invaluable contribution to the world civilization. The names of Imam al-Bukhari, Isa al-Tirmizi, Bahauddin Margilani, Hakim Tirmizi, Mahmud Zamakhshari, Ahmad Fergani, Muhammad Kamal Shashi, Muhammad Khwarizmi, Abu Rayhan Biruni, Abu Ali ibn Sina, Bahauddin Naqshbandi, Mirza Ulugh Beg are included in the history not only of Islamic but also the world civilization. They recognized as the most reliable collection of hadith from our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. The work Al-Jami Al-Sahih is the result of selfless long-term research of Imam al-Bukhari, who became a famous leader of all muhaddith. For more than 12 centuries, it has been served as the second most important written source of Islam after Holy Quran. Created back in the 10th century by the thinker from Samarkand, Abu Mansur Maturidi, who earned the name as Imam al-Huda, the Imam of the right of path, the Maturidi philosophy won the popularity throughout the Islamic world. Written as early back in 9th century, the fundamental work of Ahmad al-Farghani book, the Book of Astronomy Elements, contained the first information about structure of the world, the size of the Earth, evidence its spherical shape. Until the 17th century, it has been used as the textbooks of astronomy in the European educational institutions. It's hard to overestimate how the works created by the outstanding scientists and encyclopedic scholars by Abu Rayhan Biruni, along with his 150 academic works, only on 31 have survived to date. They convincingly show how all around this invaluable scholarly masterpiece he had left. Biruni was the first to propose the original theory of the seas and the construction of the spherical globe of the Earth, calculated the Earth radius, and the first developed classification of minerals as a theory or their origin that put an initial trip foundation for geodesy. Ibn Sina, known as Avicenna, deserves a particular admiration. At the age of 16, he started medical research and eventually wrote 450 essays on medicine and philosophy, as well as on logics, chemistry, physics, astronomy, mathematics, music, literature, and linguistics. His fundamental works, Canon of Medicine of Avicenna, launched the basic principle for practical medicine and pharmacology. Enormous part of the scholarly heritage Central Asia medieval scholars have studied, and there are more than 10,000 Islamic monasteries in Uzbekistan. And I would like to conclude my speech with the following. Uzbekistan calls for systematic work towards accelerated development of scientists, technological potential of Islamic. In this context, the leader of Uzbekistan, His Excellency Shavkat Mirziyoyev, have initiated the following important issue: establishment of International Islamic Center of Young Scientists as a platform to exchange of experience and knowledge, as well as organization of joint research centers. Organization of OIC-backed international competition of young mathematicians in tribute of great Muslim mathematician Al-Khwarizmi with the headquarters in Uzbekistan. Inception of special OIC award for scientific achievement of the countries of Islamic world, as well as the popularization of this issue on the international arena. Organization of OIC Science and Technology Summit once in 3 years. The implementation of these initiatives undoubtedly would be a significant step towards achievement of such noble goals as preservation and promotion of Islamic values, consolidation of solidarity among the Muslim people, provision for sustainable development of Muslim countries, encouragement of progress, prosperity of the people's OIC member states. Thank you for your attention.
Во имя Всевышнего.
And to those people who follow his sunnah to the last day of judgment, thank you very much to Malaysia and to Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad for gathering all those intellectuals and thinkers in this place and the meeting with the leaders and politicians. So we will have interactions to listen to each other and to see what we can do and deliver to help in the contribution of the development for our countries. This summit is very important. It's to make our nation think about its own problems. We have a lot of problems, but there are solutions. Unfortunately, most of the solutions are brought from outside. This summit is going to develop our own internal solutions for our own problems, and to think about it's the satisfaction that we have regarding our beliefs. And the Prophet ﷺ raised his companions to think about the problems of his ummah. There's an example of a companion who saw in his vision a person. He said to the man, what do you need of this thing in your hand? He said, I will take it to the Prophet ﷺ. He said, I'll give you another better thing than the one that you have in your hands. And Salman al-Farisi radiallahu anhu, may Allah be pleased with him, when Al-Ahzab came to the Medina, to besiege the Medina, he said, okay, if we were frightened by the enemy, we have to make a ditch around the city. And he made that ditch around the city in that battle. Now we have a lot of problems facing us. This is one of the best nations Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have made for the people. How we have these problems when we have our own human rights, and we have our also beliefs of tolerance between the people. How can we also be like this when we have our own civilization? How can we be like this backward? This cannot be. So for those people who are oppressed and suppressed, and those in the prisons and their homes, they don't have a person to talk about them and to take their responsibility, except those people who are participating in this summit. His Excellency Sheikh Tamim, and also Mr. Rajab Erdogan, and also Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. This nation has a lot of problems regarding its development. One of it is they don't have independence of decision. Unfortunately, we have decisions made by others, and we have foreign interference. This is a kind of conflict between the civilizations. Also, we have dictatorships in our country that don't have the right mechanism to distribute the sources between the people. They distract the nations more than they try to develop their own nations. These dictatorships try to devastate our own countries and also devastate the people that we have. They spread the corruption. Unfortunately, we have such a thing in our nation. Third, it's the war that we have in our nations. These wars break out suddenly, and we don't know why. A Muslim is a person who is peaceful, and people are not hurt by him. And also the problems that we have, groups who are implementing agenda by foreign countries, and also we have proxy wars in our region. They also contribute to the destruction of this country, and they stop us from development. Also, the fifth one, the hegemony of superpowers for science and technology. They don't allow these technology to reach our regions and to the Muslim regions also. We are not allowed to make our own factories. When Turkey bought or purchased missiles from defense missiles from Russia, America opposed such a thing. And now they are trying to impose some sanctions on Turkey because they purchased some weapons to defend themselves. The sixth thing, a lot of Muslims are ignorant of their own religions, and they don't understand it well. This kind of misunderstanding is pervading in the Arab world, unfortunately. Seventh, we are attached to the dollar or the foreign currencies, so we don't have an economic independence from foreign interference, and we have to change it. The eighth one, the administrative corruption that is spread and rampant in our country. These are challenges. These challenges have solutions, and we can overcome. The first one is for the first problem the lack of independence of decision. We need to establish democracy and good governance in our Muslim countries, and we need to seek to ask the people to participate in the establishment of this system. Second, these dictatorships that are causing corruption and havoc in the land, we need to get rid of it and uproot it from our own countries. The demonstrations that we have in the streets are part of the solution to get rid of these dictatorships, and we have seen them in some countries. When the accumulation of corruption, people went to streets to complain and protest against the corruption. Then they had the election in which they changed and they brought new system and new people to the system. And also the war. We don't see a solution for these wars unless that we have to make a dialogue and the peaceful means and methods to approach such wars. Of course, power is very the existence of power. People will not try to interfere in their own affairs. So it's very important to have our own weapons to undermine other countries from interfering in our country. We don't want to cause destruction, but we try to defend ourselves and save our country and maintain it from the interference. After that, these terrorist groups, it's very essential and instrumental. We don't need to have security reasons and to put people in prison and torture them. This will not give us a solution. The solution will be the dialogue between those dua and those people, and also to try to develop the way that people receive their information through. The fifth one, the hegemony of the superpowers for science and technology. We need to solve and correct our educational system in our country, and we need to focus on the technology and the science and such things, and what we need to improve and change our society. Also, the sixth challenge that we have is that the ignorance that we have spread among the people. The solution will be to give a channel and a way for the scholars to talk and address the people and solve their problems. He talked about Al-Bukhari Center. Also, we need also Jamiat Ibn Khaldun University in Turkey is helping, to get rid of such ignorance, and also to have our own currency and depend on it instead of depending on foreign currencies for transactions. What is the Muslim? They need to have their own financial system which is independent from other non-Muslim countries. They need to help each other and to have their own transactions through their own currencies. And maybe we have our own currency, like it was in the earlier ages. Then talking about the administrative corruption in the Arab world, it is a big challenge. It undermines our development. But if we have rules that we can apply and we can get rid of nepotism and all kinds of corruption, whether it's financial or administrative, then to choose the right people who are competent to be in their positions. And those people should not be elected or appointed because of their closeness or relationship they have with the leaders. This is a way to get rid of administrative corruption. And thank you very much. Wa alaikum assalam.
Your Excellency, all respectful leaders who are presented here today, President of Turkey, President of Iran, may I just say that we are very thankful for this invitation, and we are very happy to be here and participate. I'm very honored to participate in such a high event and listen to the speeches by Mr. Erdogan and Mr. Hassan Rouhani, and thank you so much for your bright and meaningful speeches. I would also like to greet Prime Minister of Malaysia, Mahathir, and those speeches that we've heard today, they touched a lot on development of the Muslim countries, and it's a great pleasure that we have a platform here to exchange views with statesmen and academics and all other opinion shapers here, and I hope that we will reach certain results within this forum, and also will lay foundations for further meetings and discussions. Honorable Prime Minister, your last meeting with Vladimir Putin, President of Russia, in September 2019 in Vladivostok, in the Eastern Economic Summit, on the sidelines of that event, sort of triggered activization of relationship between our two countries. There are more than 24 million Muslims living in Russia, and they live in peace next to their non-Muslim neighbors, and we've never had conflicts which were religiously motivated. And Russia is also concerned with the current conditions of the international system and the Muslim world. And we've created a group of strategic vision, Russia Islam, called the Russia Islamic World. And the purpose of this group is to develop cooperation between Russia and the Islamic nations. And Ahmed Fuzi Abdul Razak represents Malaysia in that forum, and we also have representatives from Turkey and Iran within that effort, within the framework of Eastern Economic Summit. And I would like to also invite everyone to the events which are related to the issues of the Muslim world. For example, it's Kazan Summit. It's an annual event, and usually it's conducted on spring, and it's going to be conducted next year, and we have very high-level delegates. This year in Kazan, we at this kind of summit, we discuss problems which Muslim world is encountering, and in relation to its relationship to Russia in various abodes, including trade, economy, technology development, and so on. We also conduct a series of events on humanitarian contacts. Well, for example, this year we conducted the International Forum in St. Petersburg for foreign journalists and bloggers. Also recently, on 29th, 30th November, in the city of Ufa this year, in the Republic of Bashkortostan, we conducted a forum on the experience of Russia and other countries on enhancing the interreligious dialogue. And this year, we are planning, in the next year, we are planning to conduct, arrange an exhibition in Malaysia on Islam in Russia, and we are also maintaining contacts with the government of Malaysia and the Department of Islamic Development on how we are going to arrange it. I just wanted to reiterate that Russia is very concerned with and very interested in what is going on in the Islamic and with the Islamic world, and we support any constructive initiatives which would help the Islamic world. And may I just wish you all the best both to the people of Malaysia and to all the delegates presented here today. Thank you so much.
شكرا جزيلا.
Move to this discussion stage, but we have very little time. So may I respectfully remind that each participant or questioner mention your name and country, keep your views very, very brief, and if you want to ask any question, please direct it to any of the speakers. Only one question per person is permitted. May I have the first question? Yes, please.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. دكتور أحمد مطر from Turkey. نعم، سأواجه السؤال باللغة العربية. ما يتعلق بالسيادة الوطنية. السيادة الوطنية تتطلب قوة الدولة وقوة.
A national should be a part of the country, and the country cannot be independent without the economy. I'm suggesting that there should be an entity that will make a plan and a design for all the Arab and Muslim countries to make a comprehensive economic plan.
دكتور ناصر الصانع من الكويت.
From Kuala Lumpur Summit. Thank you for the words delivered by His Excellencies, which raised the inspirations of this summit, what we heard in the morning and we heard in the evening. But I'd like to propose or make a direct question. We have attended many forums and summits, and we heard many promises like this, and better than this maybe. But after that, we didn't have any achievement in reality. What we need is the dialogue, which should be frank, and the expectations of the attendees of this summit are very high. Their expectations are very high. And for the people behind them, my question is, what is new, and how can we, when we have a declaration that okay, a development will start after it, we need to have realistic solutions and action-driven solutions. We don't want only dialogues and deliberations without any resolutions.
Well, we will be having a lot of discussions on the views expressed at this seminar and to find ways how to implement the ideas that has been enunciated here. Apart from that, of course, we are having a number of agreements on bilateral cooperation in the field of education, in the field of science, also in business. This will contribute towards closer cooperation between the countries attending at this meeting. But beyond that, we are here to listen to ideas that can help us establish good governance and how to establish stability in our countries. There is no doubt that without stability, there can be no development. And as the remark made by the speaker from Turkey, one of the most important things to contribute towards independence is a strong economy. We must develop our country to establish a good economy Once you are strong in the economic field, then we will become more independent. But if we are dependent on everything from the other countries of the world, from the West, we will be always dependent and not independent. That is the view of this, of Malaysia at least. So we hope to hear ideas coming from the floor, from the participant, so that we can improve our performance better in the future. Thank you.
Next, the gentleman in front.
There are 2 points I'd like to raise. The first one is talking about the war in the region that we have, the armed wars between the countries and the interference of other countries to support them with weapons. It's one of the impediments of development. It destroys the whole thing. This is Libya is a good example, and it's a stark example for us. The second one, I believe, there is something which is very important to develop the collaboration and coordination between the countries, which is we have to agree that we need to stop the sectarian war. We are Muslims. We may differ in our ideas and ideologies, but we need to stop the sectarian war between us. And we have to stop it in the media. Thank you.
President of the Republic of Turkey. The question is interference from other countries, which is others' affairs.
Well, there will always be interference from other countries. All the big powers want to influence whatever is happening in our countries. It is for us to resist, of course. But to resist, we have to be strong and independent. What we see today is too much dependence on these powerful countries for funds, for equipment, for our life, in fact. So, in order to be independent, we should resist the influence of the foreign countries which intends to see us fighting each other so that we can never be strong. So I hope that among the things we have to do is how to establish good governance and how to resolve differences within our countries or between our countries, not through war, but through negotiation, through arbitration, or through resort to a court of law. Fighting, killing, wars will never solve any problem. At the end of it, everything will be destroyed, people will be killed, but you will still not achieve the objective of that war. Far better to have discussions and to have negotiations, arbitration, or even resort to a court of law in order to settle the conflicts that we find in our countries, including conflicts arising from differences in religious interpretation, differences due to tribalism, and etc. These all, if you consider that we are all Muslims and we are brothers, the best way to settle would be to negotiate in a very calm manner so that we don't allow our emotions, our feelings to influence us to the point that we cannot see reason at all. So I hope that we will take that into consideration, that rather than fight, we should actually refuse to go to war, but to have negotiation and arbitration. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Tun. May the President
Tun sir.
May the President of Turkey respond to the question?
Вообще-то говоря, наш брат в своем вопросе частично коснулся этого вопроса.
Referred to the solution here, Libya. Example was given. Of course, together with Libya, I think we can include Syria as an example. Now, when you look, you see the Haftar site and Sarraj site in Libya. Haftar does not have an international recognition. It tries to represent the country in an illegitimate way. Of course, on the other hand, we see Haftar receiving significant amount of support. From where? From the obvious powers. Sarraj, on the other hand, is the legitimate representative, but we don't see a significant, remarkable support for this site. Obviously, we are siding with Sarraj and we are lending our support as much as possible. The same applies to Syria. A similar situation applies to Syria. YPG, PYD are the obvious terrorist organizations operating in Syria, and they are striving to create a terror corridor in the north of Syria. And when you look behind these organizations, you see the imperialist powers in the world. And the support given by these imperialist powers to these terrorist organizations, as I stated in the keynote speech, in fact, is seen by 32,000 trucks of ammunition and weapons and arms sent to these groups. Also, there are cargo planes, cargo aircrafts giving such support, and they send all those support without any costs. And when we wage this struggle against them, unfortunately, we have approximately 4 million refugees coming to Turkey. And we tell our refugee brothers and sisters that we can create places where they can have shelter, accommodation in their own lands. And we are making this call to the whole world, as well as the Islamic world.
için buralarda bir güvenli bölge oluşturulmasına yanaşmadı. Amerika güvenli bölge konusunu gündeme getirdi. Ben kendilerine güvenli bölge konusunu gündeme getirdim. Önceki liderlerine aynı şekilde gündeme getirdik.
I referred it to them personally. When it comes to speech, they discuss safe zones. But when it comes to actually establishing such safe zones in those regions, they are not giving any support. But when you talk about weapons, they do provide such weapons. To whom? To the terrorist organizations. When it comes to counter-terrorism, they say, let's wage a war on terrorism. How are we going to do that? You cannot fight against terrorism in words or through words. You can do it through action. That's why talking does not yield any auspicious results, does not yield to any benefits. That's why when it comes to leaders, heads of states, or prime ministers, we always submit the booklets about planning, project developments. We say, let's do it together. But they do not take part. They haven't taken part. So what should be done? Is the Islamic world very poor? Are Muslims very poor? Why don't they extend their hands in such a situation? Why don't lend their support? If they give from their, in fact, charity, we wouldn't have any poor people. We wouldn't have, if they gave from their alms, we wouldn't have any poverty. When you look at Idlib, For example, you see 50,000 people moving to our lands in Turkey, but we already have 4 million people within our territory, and 50,000 more. Maybe this number is going to increase further. And no one asks the question of how you handle it as Turkey. We spent over $40 billion for this cause. We don't receive a significant support from the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, or the European Union doesn't keep their promises either. None of them does. But then you look, Arab League convening a meeting where they say you should sever your relationships with Turkey. Whom did we receive? We received 3.7 million Syrian Arab brothers and sisters to Turkey. Why? Because they were fleeing barrel bombs. Weren't we expected to receive them? Weren't we supposed to do that? We did. So we need to rule the world with fairness. We need to act with fairness as politicians as well, so that we can gather that power. Otherwise, you cannot achieve everything with words only. That's not possible. With words only. We should grasp the string of Allah very firmly. That's what the verse says. It's great to read it, but when you don't have anything when it comes to action, then Allah will not send its nusrat to us. Thank you.
Invite the last questioner.
معين نعيم اسطنبول.
I participate from Istanbul. I would like to greet His Excellency our President and all other administrators and participants. Mr. President, at the end of this meeting, we want to ensure the strengthening of the Islamic countries as well as the Islamic community. Now, economically speaking, Turkey has its means and opportunities, and Turkey took serious steps during your time in office, and we witnessed important developments. I conducted certain work regarding the industrial cooperation between Turkey and Malaysia. We see that Malaysia has significant amount of intermediary products that can be used by Turkey. And as you know, the European Union has a trade union to start with. That was how the initial union started, and then they established this political cooperation among each other. So do you have such an initiative as Turkey and Malaysia? Also, the tragedy suffered by the Uyghur Turks can be addressed by the platform here. What kind of a solution proposal can you make in that regard? With all due respect.
There are 1.7 billion Muslims. Obviously, this is a big market. If we decide to source our needs from Muslims and Muslim countries, then we will enrich ourselves. But because we have not enough products by ourselves, we have to source most of our needs from other countries. And our money flows out. When money flows out, we become poor. But if we source the things that we need from Muslim countries, then obviously our wealth will stay within the Muslim community and we will become richer. That is why among the things that should resolve the problem of the Muslim is to build a market, to work together to produce all our needs and source them from each other. When we do that, we will enrich all the countries concerned. And when we are rich, we will become strong. But it is important that we learn how to produce the things by ourselves. I can see that Turkey has gone very deeply into defense, into equipping itself with the defense equipment, and Malaysia is learning from Turkey. We think that if possible, we source our needs from Muslim countries. It is not a boycott of the non-Muslims, no. But, you know, if you source or you sell things to non-Muslim countries, sometimes they apply sanctions against you. And when they apply sanctions, you lose what you need and you become helpless, and they can apply more pressure. But if they apply sanctions, but we don't need their products, then that sanction will not work at all. This is what we should be doing, at least to regard the Muslim community as a big market, as much as we regard countries like China as a big market. And China has grown very fast because they test all their products domestically at first and then begin to sell to other countries. We can accept our own products, but maybe there is a fear that it is not of good quality. But good quality comes with the continuous experiments and products which will improve over time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. May I invite the President of the Republic of Iran to have the final words, final remarks.
In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, I am very much delighted to have participated in this summit meeting in Kuala Lumpur, and I would like to once again appreciate Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad for convening this productive meeting. Very good issues were raised and very important points were discussed in the course of today. What is significant today is that the Muslim world enjoys a lot of capacities, and we do not use properly this capacity. The Almighty God has blessed us, has blessed the Muslim community, and we have failed to exploit such blessing. Conversely, in the Muslim world, sometimes we waste our resources, and that is that the base of the religion of Islam was founded on morality, ethics. إنما بعثت لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق. And when we Muslims amongst us face some improper differences, either in terms of ideology, in terms of religion, and never ever have we should be able to remove our differences and overcome our differences under the teachings of the Holy Quran and the tradition of the Holy Prophet. Many meetings are being convened across the Muslim world. We do not expect to resolve all our problems in a single meeting. However, if on these meetings we pay more attention to our problems and think about finding solutions to these problems, and if we are able to advance even with a single step, it is a valuable opportunity for us. I hope that in this meeting we have gained more knowledge and information about the maladies of the Muslim world, and in this meeting under consultation, cooperation, and exchange of view, we would be able to take a significant step in order to benefit from the capacity provided by Muslim countries. And we should not allow others who want to create division, dissension, and differences amongst us as Muslims. And in the light of differences among Muslims, they want to plunder our resources and exploit us. We should prevent them. We should stand against them. And I believe this could happen with the knowledge of our young generation. And today, in Muslim countries, we need to promote science and technology. We need to promote knowledge. We need to develop technologies. We need to increase the knowledge of our peoples, and we need to trust our past. We need to trust what has been already inherited to us by our dignitaries and scholars. We should be so much hopeful to our future that the morning of victory is coming. Alaysa subhu biqarib. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
As the moderator of this first roundtable session, it's a great honor for me. We thank hugely the three very distinguished speakers and the three interventionists, and for the huge attendance. Thank you very much. I hereby end this session. Thank you.
I thank our moderator, Tun Ahmad Sarji bin Abdul Hamid, Deputy Chairman of KL Summit 2019, for moderating the Roundtable Session 1. And I now humbly invite all of our honorable leaders to be at the front area of the stage for the document exchange ceremony. We invite the Honorable Tun Dr. Mahathir bin Mohamad, Prime Minister of Malaysia and Chairman of KL Summit, His Excellency Dr. Hassan Rouhani, President of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and His Excellency Recep Tayyip Erdogan, President of the Republic of Turkey. Inshallah, today's document will pave the way for a historic framework of cooperation in several strategic areas, particularly in science and research, industry and technology transfer, commerce and trade, media and communication, as well as education and talent mobility. Now, shall we start with our first exchange. The first exchange is between Baladna of Qatar and Felkra of Malaysia. This collaboration is on a large-scale dairy venture in Malaysia, intended to create 10,000 head farm with an annual production of 50 million liters of milk a year, doubling Malaysia's milk production yearly. Thank you, representatives from Baladna and Qatar and Felkra of Malaysia. Secondly, we have the Malaysian Industry Government Group for High Technology, MITE, LIPI of Indonesia, International Center for Chemical and Biological Sciences, ICCBS, and Scientific Research of Council of Turkey, TÜBİTAK, to collaborate in setting up a center of excellence dedicated to research in key sectors of interest to the Muslim world in the areas of skills development, scientific exploration, and applying the latest technology. Thank you, representatives of MITE, LIPI of Indonesia, International Center for Chemical and Biological Sciences, ICCBS, and Scientific Research of Council of Turkey, TÜBİTAK. Next, we have CTRM of Malaysia and Turkish Aerospace Industries. This cooperation has paved way to future development in the area of research and new technology, as well as in human capital. representatives, CTRM of Malaysia and Turkish aerospace industries. Next, we have the media collaboration between the governments of Malaysia and Turkey in establishing a communication center aimed at addressing Islamophobia globally. Thank you, representatives of Malaysia and Turkey. Last but not least, we have document exchange for youth exchange programs. They consist of a memorandum of cooperation for the Work for Malaysia project, a Malaysia-Turkey talent mobility for Malaysian youth with mental HR. Now is for the letters of intent with Turkey Youth Foundation, Tugwa, as well as Nahdlatul Ulama, and Muhammadiyah of Indonesia. Thank you to all of the youth representatives. We wish you successful collaborations. Ladies and gentlemen, with this we have completed the document exchange. And again, I invite our honorable leaders for a group photo. Thank you very much to all of our leaders. Finally, congratulations again to all of the multiple collaborations between the organizations. We pray that our session and collaboration strengthens the relationship and brotherhood of participating countries and ultimately deliver great success. Ladies and gentlemen, our session 2 roundtable will commence within 5 minutes. Therefore, kindly remain in the hall. Assalamualaikum.